On to game 2. Rin is sticking with Revengers because she won the last match, and she's up against Bermuda Triangle this time. Rin actually used to main Bermuda Triangle, so she should know this deck well enough to understand what it's going to do. It's another one she could deck out if the situation forces her to do it so. And Stride actually did power up Bermuda Triangle quite a bit because it makes their setup and their ability to get what they need to hand faster than what it was before. So for grade 2, Rin rides Mana, calls Shadow Lancer, gets the skill off, and Pikachu for XHRT actually rode Kura, the Soul Blast 2 on Flipper for Bermudas, which means she has a 5k Vanguard actually. It's now 10 because of Heal Trigger, but still enough to hit. No guards the Vanguard, and gets a critical. So 2 triggers out of deck from that. And we see grade 2 Rush. Grade 2 Rush in a big way. Starting off with 9 kids of the Vanguard. Ron's attack is the one to look out for. Ron's. Because with her ability, she can counterblast a duo in order to get a unit back to hand. She can either get an unflip from it, or, oh wait, no, now she can't plus from it at all. Because of the heal trigger. She can only get 1 counterblast off, and she'll need at least 2 to get a plus. So it depends on if she's even going to do it. She does get the counterblast. But Pikachu is looking at the deck before choosing a unit to add back to hand. That's kind of illegal. Just a little bit illegal. Just because that has a chance of dictating what he does. But it's not a big issue. Not enough for me to say anything about it. Not enough so that anyone needs to say anything about it, to be honest. So the next attack is 17th the Vanguard. It's guarded. Luckily that draw trigger made it so it only needed a 5k block. With Pikachu returning that unit in order to get another copy of it, Pikachu actually took away the booster of that other attacker, making Rin's guard easier. So we get Mordred Phantom just like the last game, 18k at the Vanguard. Pikachu knows what happens if this hits. Saw what Rin did in the last game after all. Pikachu no guards. Swordbreaker Angel and Twin Drive. I think Rin guarded with 1 as well, so there's only 1 left in the deck. Which means she's not going to get to draw 2 from this. But she does get a setup unit. And the setup unit of choice is Masquerade. Which is actually a really good decision because she can just switch Shadow Lancer and Masquerade around to make that a 17k column after the grade 3 ride. Very good utility to have. So it goes into end phase because Shadow Lancer can't hit anything thanks to lack of trigger. So now we see Iori. Iori's skill at Limit Break 4, it can Soul Blast 1 and discard a copy of itself to return a duo to the hand. Well, any Bermuda actually, but you usually would make it a duo. And she can get 2 copies of that unit back to hand as well. You can actually use it to get a bunch of perfect guards or anything else you may need into your hand from your deck. And there really isn't a whole lot your opponent can do about it. It's one of the amazing hand gain strategies that Bermuda Triangle have. Twin Drive, 2 Blaster Dark Abyss, and 17k goes to a rear guard. Like I said, she did switch Masquerade and Shadow Lancer, making that column. A critical trigger came up, so she didn't go for the Vanguard for 4th attack. Then again, that's probably not the reason why she didn't do that. The reason why she didn't do it is because she probably doesn't want to see Pikachu's limit break. Rin knows this card very well. And now we get the Legion unit, which is Victoria. Victoria's ability, when Legion is performed, she's allowed to return 1 Bermuda to the hand and get a copy of it from the deck. By dual standards, that's kind of standard. And its other ability is to gain 3k when it attacks, as long as there's something else in the column. Another kind of standard ability for Legion in general. The biggest thing that's good about this, number 1, it's a duo. Number 2, gaining stuff to hand and being able to choose when you do it, not just like on ride or whatnot. But also just the general fact that it gives duo Bermudas in general, but duo specifically, because they do have because Bermudas do have 2 more Legions, believe it or not. Yeah, for not having an official set during the time of Legion, they actually have 3 Legions. Amazing. But they have the ability to return units back to the deck, mostly trigger units, which can be really good. It especially helps the fact that one of the biggest problems that duos have is, well, duos especially, but Bermudas in general, is they tend to deck out if you let the game drag. Legion is kind of their way of fixing that problem. By the way, Rin Break Rides gets Phantom Blaster Abyss, uses its ability to send a Shadow Lancer to the field in rest. It's in rest, so it can't boost, but it is a retire target for Phantom Blaster Abyss, which means Limit Break is able to go off without Rin using the Intercept, which is more than likely what she's going to do. So he guards both the rears with an Intercept and a heal trigger. The heal trigger is more than likely going to be used for Legion. No guards the first Vanguard attack and gets a healing Revenger out of it, so Rin gets to heal. Has absolutely 0 impact on her other skill, on her Legion skill, because that is not based on the damage. So now Legion skill activates, retire 3, and like I said, the Intercept stays, and now this next one is boosted. 43k to the Vanguard, and Perfect Guard goes down. No triggers come up, but the hand difference has shifted tremendously. So now Pikachu is using Legion. Returns 2 heals, Perfect Guard, and the Mate. And the Mate is probably due to the result of there might not be that many left in deck. gets the grade 1 back to hand and gets one in deck to hand. Calls for peace, which allows him to use Darling to put it into the soul, get all those back to hand, and gets a draw for each. It's a Counterblast 1 skill, but if you have at least 3 peace in hand, you can reveal them and refund the Counterblast cost. So basically just 4 draws for free. Calls peace and then calls Slanley, which allows them to do it again, get another draw for returning peace to hand, and again it's free. So the hand difference has shifted back in a sense. Kinda, sorta, not really, because here comes dropping hand for field. But 3 Lulus. And with Lulu's skill, he's able to give 3k to the other ones. Which means that hits for 18. This is going to hit for 22. And this is 34. Rin no guards 34k attack. Heal trigger appears, no double crit. And then draw trigger. So Rin can afford to take the next attack as well. And not worry about losing from it. As a matter of fact, okay, she decides to guard it. What I was going to say was, if she had another Phantom Blaster Abyss in hand, the other attack would allow her to do the Legion skill again. There's Cormac. And we're going to see Legion with it. Probably going to get back those 2 heal triggers. Oh, Rin guarded in order to return the triggers she used to guard back to deck. So the 2 heals, the crit, and the draw trigger. And then Legion happens. Once again, get a Revenger in rest. Yes, Makar specifically calls Revengers. Specifically Revenger grade 1s. And they specifically come out in rest. Very specific unit. That's why it's free. Blaster Dark appears, does not use Counterblast. Mostly because it wouldn't mean much at this point. Attacks with the Vanguard first, retiring the rested unit so it's 2 critical. Good way to force the guard, so a perfect guard appears. First check is a draw trigger. Power to Makar so it can actually hit, and the second check was a perfect guard. Pikachu doesn't have to guard this, but it only takes a 5k block. So it's better to attack intercept. 16k attack. Pikachu takes it and heal trigger that doesn't heal. This could be another beefer. As a matter of fact, I'll be right back. We now return to the battle already in progress. Rin took 1 damage. Let's see. Guard the Vanguard with a perfect guard. Use heal trigger to guard the first attack and then took the third. So end phase, stride happens. Discarded Phantom Blaster. Too bad. Might have been good to have those extra attacks, but with a hand like that, it's hard to imagine that anything is going to hit, no matter how many times you battle. Not to mention with a drop zone like this, there's not a lot you want to return. You can return 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth you just have to pick whatever grade 0 you decide to call with McCart. Also, let's provide there are actually Blaster Dark Revengers in the deck. One, two, three. If there's one in hand, then you wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. So that's a 2 pass. Gets a heal trigger. On the third check, no less. The third check that wouldn't have happened if Stride hadn't happened. $14K at the Vanguard. Probably going to intercept. Yep. Slaney intercepts again. And 16 to the Vanguard. Decides to take it. Rin actually hadn't decided what to attack yet. Pikachu jumped the gun thinking it was going to be at the Vanguard. Rin attacks the rear instead. Probably to stop a future Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 draw card, which does come if the mate happens that way. But we're going to get Legion regardless. Begs the question, if that was his intent from the start, why didn't he heal the trigger? Well, Soul Blast 2 to unflip 2. Gets another mate in the drop zone so it can be used for Legion. So for Legion, it has heal trigger. Probably is going to have to be a mate. And then perfect guard. Okay, I'm lagging a bit because things are happening all at once. Okay, here we go. So he returned Peace, Healer, Mate, and Legion. So he wants to Legion again. I think he used Peace again. Yeah, he used Peace again. Called it, and then Legion added it back to hand. The only attack Rin took was from the rear guard that didn't have 2 critical. Here comes another Macart. Most likely Legion to return the 2 heals. Actually... Okay, retires Macart in order to call Blaster Dark Abyss. I'm going to assume the reason for that, outside of Counter Blast Retire something, was likely to get a Macart in drop zone to use as Legion. 2 heals, Perfect Guard, and Macart. So yes, that was correct. At this point, Rin is more worried about surviving than about doing 6 damage. Doesn't stop her from activating Cormac's skill, making this a 2 critical hit. If Pikachu takes this, a critical could end the match. With that in mind, Pikachu does Perfect Guard. And a heal trigger appears. And a Perfect Guard appears. Rin did shuffle. I checked to be sure, Rin did shuffle. So as unlikely as that was, it is legitimate. $21K to the Vanguard. Pikachu isn't doing anything. He hasn't even moved the Perfect Guard from before. Takes the rear hit and gets a critical. One less critical to worry about from the deck. So about 14 minutes into this match, I got out of the fight to move around a bit, which means we have another 30 minutes of being able to record without fear of getting booted out, which is really good, because this match shouldn't take 45 minutes. I really want to say it shouldn't take 45 minutes. 30K to the Vanguard doesn't call any rears. Not sure why, other than to keep hand. If that's the case, he might not have any Perfect Guards left. If Rin has the ability to use another Phantom Blast or Abyss, somehow, would be a good way to take advantage of that. As I say that, the likelihood of that being possible is actually kind of low. I don't know her ratio of units, but I do know 2 are out of deck, and there's the 3rd. This could be the single most opportune time for her to do that. She puts back Heal Trigger, Crit Trigger, and Blaster Dark. Blaster Dark a Revenger Abyss, most likely for the Legion, because she has 1, 2, 3 out of deck. That was the 4th. Calls Mana. Mana gets a unit from the deck to the field. Goes to the bottom of the deck at the end of the turn, but it doesn't matter in this case. She gets out the draw trigger, most likely because she doesn't want to get the draw trigger in a drive check. And depending on what she decides to do, she can actually put it back to the bottom of the deck. If she thinks this is going to end via deck out. He takes the first attack, which means he's forcing himself to guard the more powerful attacks that need more guard. More than likely, he was trying to get a trigger, but it was not to be. 10k guards the rear, and now 22k from the vanguard. As strange as it sounds, if I was Rin, I'd probably retire everything but Freezer, just to put it back in deck. Well, then again, she probably isn't in trouble of decking out. First check is a heal trigger, doesn't work. Second check is a heal trigger, that doesn't work. But that does. But that was a 2 pass. Rin got both, and a 6th heal appears. And that can't be anything short of annoying at this point. Rin decides to keep Blaster Dark on the field, and is now attacking for 38k. So now it's 26, 36, not even a 1 pass. That's a 1 pass. And that's 2. So Rin drive checks. She just double triggered, so the odds of her doing it again are actually not that high unless she's been recycling and shuffling through triggers, which she kind of has. So it can happen. So this is a 2 to hit. Rin hasn't done her first drive check yet, unless I'm lagging again. Bad lag is bad, because I can't think of a reason why Rin would stall out the drive checks. I'm really hoping there wasn't a disconnect. Please don't let there be a disconnect. I will take lag over a disconnect. Any day. Okay, this is taking a little bit too long to be lag. I'm worried. Nothing wrong with my internet. Is it area? Time to check. Unfortunately, Rin's internet went out, which means it's a disconnect. That means a loss for Rin. It's unfortunate because Rin just said that she only had 2 out of the 11 cards in her deck, only 2 are non-triggers. So the fact that so the idea of her double triggering was almost guaranteed. Tough luck, but on to the next game.